We're here with another episode of Conversations and Connections. We're the official podcast of the Family Crisis Center of East Texas. I'm Stuart Burson, the prevention coordinator for the agency. Today with me I have Angel Gillispie. She is the community engagement coordinator for the Texas Family Care Network. And we're going to talk a little bit about what they do. And one of the things I want to ask Angel is if they've been on the scene for a while, they're kind of new to some stuff I think that they've been doing as far as their connection with CPS. And so we're just going to talk a little bit about that. Angel, thank you so much for willing to come onto the podcast.
Hello, and thank you for having me.
Well, I appreciate it. So, Angel, first of all, I just kind of want to start kind of broad, I guess. And let's first talk about who or what is the Texas Family Care Network? I know it's a very that's a very broad question, and the Texas Family Care Network does so many things. But just kind of let me know what you guys do over there.
The Texas Family Care Network is a division of Presley Ridge, Texas, which is a 501c3 corporation. We are the single source continuum contractor that will provide transformational change to the child welfare system in Deep East Texas, or Region 5, as the Department of Family and Protective Services calls it. Presley Ridge was founded in 1832 and remains headquartered in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Presley Ridge is the company that was awarded the contract from the Department of Family and Protective Services to bring community-based care to Deep East Texas.
Okay.
And so Presley Ridge, they have been operating since 1832. It started as the Presbyterian Asylum for children or orphans, and it has just evolved over the past 190 years. They provide foster care in 6 other states. So like Presley Ridge has services available in Pennsylvania, Ohio, West Virginia, Maryland, Delaware, Virginia, and now Texas. And
Okay.
not only foster care, but they provide like a plethora of other services. Like they have a school for the deaf, they have a school for autism.
Okay.
They have a lot of community-based services, and so we're just so excited that they were chosen, and they formed Presley Ridge, Texas, and the Texas Family Care Network to bring just transformational change to the foster care system here in East Texas.
Okay. One thing that just kind of popped into my mind, I wanted to ask you, the Texas Family Care Network, were you guys around and providing services before you kind of took over some of the stuff that CPS was responsible for?
So the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services, Child Protective Services, awarded the contract to Presley Ridge in 2023, and then in November of 2023, we started providing placement services. So instead of the state CPS looking for their own placement, we started in November of 2023. Whenever they had a removal, then they would contact us to find a placement for them.
Okay.
And so that's kind of the kickoff of stage 1 of community-based care.
Okay.
Was in November of last year. And then in April of 2024, that's when we took over case management. And so all foster care, kinship, and adoptive services came over to Texas Family Care Network in April of 2024.
Okay. So pretty much anything. So CPS still does investigations,
Yes, and family-based safety services
and
still
all of
within.
that. But let's say there's a situation where the investigators deem, okay, this child needs to be removed from its environment, from their environment, I should say. Then that's when you guys come in and take it from there.
Right. Once the court awards the Department of Family and Protective Services temporary managing conservatorship, that's when Texas Family Care Network is assigned to the case, and we start case management with the family and the children.
Okay. So I know you kind of touched on this. I don't know if there's anything you can kind of expand on, is the different services provided by the Texas Family Care Network. And the reason, kind of a little behind the scenes, how I kind of got to know Angel is that she attended our Coalition to End Relationship Violence meeting in Nacogdoches a while back. And I had heard, that some of the stuff that CPS does was going to be contracted out. You were kind of talking a little bit about that at our meeting. So when I went online to y'all's website, Texas Family Care Network does just a plethora of services. And that's why even in preparation for the podcast, I had emailed you, said, now, specifically, I didn't know what your role was. If you are just with helping promote the foster care things, or did you, if you are anyway tied to all these other things that the Family Care Network provides?
Well, I work in all stages.
Okay.
So, if someone needs help with something, if any of our children have any needs that aren't met, then I work with our case managers, I work with our placements
Yes, ma'am.
to help meet those needs. But Texas Family Care Network, the focus is on individualized and coordinated service delivery with our local partner agencies, with our community, to increase, the reunification of children to their homes, or to seek positive permanency for those children.
Yeah.
If we don't have the resource here in East Texas, then how do we get it here?
Okay.
Who can we partner with that can, help us bring in the resources that are needed?
Right.
Some of the different services that we help provide are, case management, but we also encourage our case managers to be role models for the clients that we serve. If a parent, has lived in a generational poverty type situation and they're struggling with maintaining a clean or safe home, then can we provide them with cleaning supplies? Can we show them that whenever your service plan says, maintain a safe and clean home, this is what it looks like to clean the bathroom or to clean the child's room, or this is what it looks like to prepare a family meal together or have a family game night, and utilizing the resources that we have, but also resources in the community to help make that happen.
Right.
So a lot of our partners are able to help provide us with cleaning products or hygiene products, or we're able to get someone to donate a family game night basket or things like that sometimes these families haven't had access to, or just haven't had the support that they need.
Right. Well, I think what you just said is great as far as you coming to the SERVE coalition meetings, because, and I think we probably talked about SERVE before on the podcast, the Coalition to End Relationship Violence, where we meet in Nacogdoches and in Lufkin every month, where different organizations and different agencies get together to talk about what can everyone do as a group to help support some of the families that all of our individual agencies serve. Specifically with the SERVE, it is, of course, the big goal is raising awareness of domestic violence, sexual assault, relationship violence. And I think that's where the Texas Family Care Network and the Family Crisis Center, I think that's an excellent partnership that we could potentially have together, because it's not a fun topic to talk about, but I'm sure the CPS's role when they, if they have to remove a child and you guys take over, that child may have been subjected to something, some kind of domestic violence or a sexual assault type of situation.
Absolutely. A lot of our cases, the families have either already sought resources at the Family Crisis Center, or we refer them to the Family Crisis Center for resources for counseling or advocacy, seeking protective orders. And so we've worked, hand in hand with the Family Crisis Center on a lot of cases. And then just being able to, partner and provide the support to families that are struggling with a history of generational poverty, generational domestic violence, abuse, neglect, and to break that cycle.
Okay. Are there specific types of families you specifically target or go after? And what I mean by that is, can anyone use your services? Do they have to meet special requirements? Let's say if I'm a foster parent, would y'all be able to help me with anything.
Yes, absolutely. We serve all families, but especially those with children involved in the child welfare system across Deep East Texas,
Okay.
as well as children in foster care who are placed here from other regions. We are involved in community outreach, prevention efforts. We have a capacity building specialist, but also a provider relations specialist that works specifically with child placing agencies in the area. Currently, we don't license our own homes,
Okay.
so we work with child placing agencies to provide those homes. And so typically, foster parents in the area will reach out to their child placing agency, and then I work closely, and our capacity building specialist, our relations specialist, works closely with the child placing agencies to make sure that whatever needs there are filled.
Okay. So, I'm sure a lot of people think of foster services as making sure a child gets adopted, caring for the child until they do find a permanent home, services like that. But I think I've even discovered that there's so much more to the foster care system. Just what you've mentioned, helping, making sure these kids get the medical care they need, making sure their dietary needs are met. You're talking about, making sure they have as much normalcy, I guess, as you can. Talking about family game night and things like that. And I think it's so important for people to realize that there is a whole lot more to the foster care system than, I guess, the mechanics of it.
Right.
Okay, this child needs to be placed here, and you're going to take care of this child as a foster family for however long, and then this is going to happen. It's just so much more, the human side of it, I guess.
Absolutely. And so Texas Family Care Network, we mainly work on foster care and adoptions, but there's also kinship services. So if a child is placed with a family member or a friend, fictive kin, it can be a school counselor, it can be a family friend, any number of placement types. We work those type cases as well. If a child is removed somewhere else in the state and is placed here locally, we also work with those children. So not only children that are removed here in Deep East Texas, but children that are across the state that have been placed here. We provide all of these type cases with case management, parenting tips and resources, a lot of work with the kinship families. If they're not receiving any kind of financial assistance, then we're working with child welfare boards or community partners or any other resources that are available to help meet their kinship needs. We do referrals and assistance with coordinating services such as like disability services for therapy, mental health and crisis intervention referrals for individual and family counseling. The case managers do a lot of the role modeling like I talked about, and just a variety of other services based on the needs of the children and the families that we serve.
Sure. So following removal, I guess, and I don't know exactly how this works, is the first thing that you try to do is maybe place the child with a family member or a close friend that the child is, someone who the child's familiar with, I would assume.
Yes, that is best practice. So whenever we receive a case, in many cases, the Department of Family and Protective Services has looked for those placement options. So whenever they remove a child from the home, their first step would be to provide a resource information form to the parent to say that they would like to designate, the top 3 caregivers that they have to submit for background checks or home studies for placement. If those people check out as placement options, then the department will place children with those kinship or fictive kin placement options. If not, then they, look for foster care placements with Texas Family Care Network. Once we receive a case from the department, we look at what the placement options are. If the child is already in a kinship home, how can we support that placement? Okay. If the child's in a foster placement, then we start looking at, are there any relatives, friends, family members, teachers, counselors, anybody that the child's familiar with that we could get the child back closer to home in the least restrictive environment? Because, the most disruptive thing is changing a school or changing where the child attends church or goes to the counselor. And so that is our, number one goal is what's the least restrictive? Can we get the child back to family or friends? And so that's like our next step. And to give it perspective, a lot of the children that we have placed in foster homes in our region are from other regions. And a lot of the children that get removed in East Texas, there's not enough beds here in East Texas, and so they end up getting placed outside of their county of removal or even outside the region. And so our big focus, taking over case management is as children seek positive permanency, or if they are reunified, then what can we do to secure those beds for children in East Texas? What can we do to get the children that are placed here from other regions back reunified with their caregivers, or seeking positive permanency with kinship or fictive kinship placements? That way it frees up those beds here in East Texas, and we can keep our kids local in the most least restrictive environment to give them a positive outcome.
Okay, great. One of the things I was going to ask you is, when a child's placed in the foster home or foster family, I'm sure there's a lot of families that's all they ever do is foster kids and things. But do you ever see situations where a foster family just really falls in love with this child, that they want to adopt the child, actually? Do you know what the stats are? Do you have access to any kind of statistics as far as how often that happens?
I don't have that statistic with me today, but if the children's parents aren't able to reunify, if rights are terminated, then that is an option for the foster parents to adopt the child. And so that has happened in certain circumstances. But going in, we make sure that foster parents are well aware that the goal here is family reunification. That is the number one priority, is family reunification or reunification with family or friends that the parent would designate as that next caregiver. But if that's not an option and rights are terminated, then if that child's free for adoption, then the foster family can be considered for adoption.
Do y'all ever work with kids? We've been talking about kids taken out of their home, placed, through CPS. Do you ever work with families or work with kids? Let's say the child was not. It wasn't deemed that they had to be taken out of their home for safety. Let's just say, hypothetically, they lost both parents in an accident or something like that, and there's no next of kin. Do you ever work with kids in those situations?
Yes, absolutely. There's children that come into foster care at no one's fault.
Right.
They just don't have a next of kin or an appropriate caregiver that can take them in. And so we work to find them a safe and loving home that can meet their needs. And we also do what's called circles of support that brings in any friends or family members, anybody in the community that's ever had contact with that child, to kind of brainstorm and come up with an appropriate placement option, or just give us some ideas.
Yeah. Okay. I just didn't know if y'all specifically worked with one particular subset of that population where it's just the kids that haven't been taken out of their home. You work with all kids that may need foster families,
Yes.
foster care. That's great. Is there so before we wrap things up, is there anything else that you just wanted to make sure our audience knows about Texas Family Care Network?
Well, if you have any questions about Texas Family Care Network or community-based care, please reach out. Visit our website at www.txfcn.org, and you can see information on there about what we're doing in the community, as well as links to the Texas Community-Based Care webpage that kind of explains all the different stages that we're going through. Stage 1, we started doing placement. Stage 2, we took over case management in April. And Stage 3 is coming up, and so we're looking forward to seeing how well we're doing as far as placement of children. I know that there's been a huge reduction in children without placement or children pending placement, and so we've had great success in finding placements for all the children that we have been referred.
Right. Okay. Thank you so much. I appreciate you doing this for me.
Thank you for this opportunity to visit with you today.
Yeah. Angel Gillispie, Community Engagement Coordinator, Texas Family Care Network. So if you have any questions or thoughts, or if you need the services of the Family Crisis Center, we do have our 24-hour toll-free number. That's 1-800-828-7233. Also, be sure to subscribe to Conversations and Connections. You can do that via Spotify, Apple Podcasts, pretty much any podcast service of your choice. And if you'd like to make a donation, go to our website at FamilyCrisisCenterofEastTexas.com. There at the bottom left, you'll see a donate button. Click on that if you'd like to make a monetary donation to help survivors of relationship violence. Remember, be the voice, if not for you, for someone else.